Good morning as you come in. Today is Monday, December 14th, 2020. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome as you arrive. Well, today's the day for the Electoral College to vote, but we won't find out today what the results were. That, I guess, doesn't come out for some time. I think it's in January. And a lot of other things are going on in this fight over the election. The greatest country in the world that's been promoting democracy and freedom and all that around the world, even going to war with other nations that screw up their elections. This has been a debacle. But Trump knew it 4 years ago and did really nothing about it. He had that one executive order, of course, where it talks about foreign interference in the elections. But I'm not here to talk about elections today. And I'm going to keep control of my temper this morning, I think. Not that I have any reason to. Okay, well, the first thing is did you notice? If you remember, on my very angry video the other day, and I think I've said it a few other times, that most likely Trump will not be taking the vaccine, any form of it. And then he came out yesterday in a tweet and said that he's not going to take it, and neither are most of the White House staff, until the appropriate time. Wow. How did I call that one? You mean to tell me that the greatest accomplishment, quote unquote, tongue in cheek, of his presidency, he's not going to partake in to ensure that he can continue on? Oh, but he has, I saw one person come out with the excuse, well, he's had it, so he has immunity. Well, ladies and gentlemen, most of us have immunity. We've probably had it since before they even started this emergency back in March, because it went through the population already. The tests have been implanting something in the back of your nose if you get the long ones, right? So I said to stay away from that, that it's probably giving you something you don't want, and it turns out that it looks like that's the case, right? And people are testing positive again because the tests are, blown up all out of proportion. You could make it look like somebody has some disease from an asteroid, because you, as I've constantly said, and Dr. Kerry Mullis said it as well if you've seen his interviews before he died, you have almost all the diseases known to man in you. It's because your immune system works so well that not any particular one gets you. But now they're going to destroy your immune system with this. You're going to tell me that Trump doesn't know what's going on in Australia or Britain about people contracting human immunodeficiency, HIV, or just that their immune systems are being compromised by this whole process, and then worse? Now, of course he knows. It's the takedown of the people for the elites. I've said it for a long time. So Trump backs out, opts out of the shot, and of course, people are trying to give him the excuse again, trying to make up excuses for him so he can continue on being their savior and their champion and their God emperor. No, thank you. No, thank you. Along those same lines, I wasn't going to mention this because I didn't want to cause a stir. But I've been calling Trump out for over 2 years, to one degree or another, for his obvious actions that were counter to the good of the people. I talked about his lack of principle, putting money and economy before principle, selling your birthright, your liberty for a bowl of porridge. Boy, haven't we arrived there. So I've been talking about all these things. I didn't give him a pass merely because he was my guy, right? I put his feet to the fire as best as I could. I'm not a very big channel. I don't have a lot of influence, but I could see where he was going. And that was before I even finally decided that if he that he was either the AC or had a really strong dose of the AC spirit. And by the way, an antichrist, a lot of people still don't understand this. It doesn't mean he's going to necessarily do evil things like, cook people over open fires and stuff like that. It just means that he pretends to be Christ. He mimics Christ. Remember, Jesus said, many will come in my name saying, I am Christ. See that you be not deceived. Meaning they'll admit that Jesus is Christ, or they will be a false Christ. And that's really what antichrist means, okay? A false Christ. In other words, you're putting your hope in someone instead of Christ, okay? Especially putting your hope in man. So I interviewed Rich Higgins from the National Security Council. He was the one that McMaster booted out because Higgins and some other guys, Ezra Watnick Cohen being one of the other, Ezra Cohen Watnick being the other one, and some others, trying to warn Trump about the coup. Well, Trump didn't want to be warned about the coup because I think that was all the plan, to make him look like a victim so that all the conservatives would back him up no matter what he did, even if he was doing things that Hillary would have done. So really, Higgins kind of blew the whistle. He kind of ruined the whole play. Well, I couldn't have that. Anyway, Higgins put out a tweet, so I figure I can talk about it now. Higgins put out a tweet this weekend, and basically somebody asked if Trump was in on this whole ploy, using the Republican Party as the defeat mechanism to take down the country. And Higgins' response was basically, well, I don't know if he's doing it willingly or unwillingly, but the effect is the same. Go see Rich Higgins' Twitter line. It's actually even worse than that. That's as close as he would come to say that Trump is actually helping to bring down the constitutional republic and to enslave mankind. He won't go that far, but that's really what he's saying. I was so happy. I actually went out and I bought a bottle of Cook's. I know it's cheap. I like expensive scotch, not expensive champagne. So I went out and I bought a bottle of Cook's dry champagne, extra dry. Not a big one. It was one of the 750 milliliter, I think. And I celebrated the fact that it looks like I was vindicated. And even Rich Higgins admitted it in a roundabout way. Okay, let's talk about the Chinese problem. I see Steve Quayle and the Hagman report and all these people talking about this bunker buster bomb supposedly dropped by a B-52 in Maine that coincides with an earthquake there. Could be. I remember being out in at a weapons storage depot. It was Tooele Army Depot, as a matter of fact. And they were destroying what at the time were called BLU-82 bombs. Would probably be very similar, not as powerful, but for the time that we're talking about in the late 70s. These BLU-82s were nothing to mess around with. They buried that BLU-82, I don't know how deep in the demolition area. I don't know how deep they buried it. I was just observing. And when that thing went off, you knew it. And I was probably a minimum of 2 miles away. So these bunker buster bombs are even more so. So it could be. But I think an earthquake in the area just happened to be a nice little story for that. And I'm going to tell you why. Trudeau, we know now, was pushing to have Chinese troops in there. When I first saw some of the videos coming out of Chinese troops walking along the road, I didn't know if they were Chinese or not because I couldn't get enough resolution out of the videos that were available so that I could see uniforms, things like that. For all I knew, they were a group of guys out on a hike, right? You know, because British Columbia in particular is inhabited by many, many people of Asian descent. So that wasn't definitive for me. But now that we know that a Canadian general and several in the Canadian Armed Forces confronted or basically denied, uh, disobeyed Trudeau's wishes and orders, apparently, to bring these Chinese in there, we now know that was happening. So there are Chinese troops in Canada as we speak. How many? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I've never seen any evidence myself of Chinese troops being in Mexico. But knowing how they work, especially through the drug cartels, distributing their fentanyl, I would suspect that there is a Chinese presence there and that our intelligence services know about it. Which makes it really strange that Trump allowed the Mexican army to guard the border instead of our own military. I don't trust Trump a bit. He is in there to take us down, and he's done a hell of a good job of it. All while looking like the victim, so that you would defend him, no matter what he does. Take your, red flag laws, close your businesses down, put you on universal income, basic income, all these things that are happening. Fighting for you now to get more stimulus money, got to get that money out to the people instead of letting you go back to work, open your businesses. Look at that poor lady who owned the bar and grill in LA when the mayor allowed the Hollywood company to set up right next to her outdoor dining facility. It's designed to destroy everybody, and Trump can't be so stupid that he doesn't know it. He's complicit. So what about this situation where the Chinese 50,000, right, were in a bunker, in a tunnel in Maine? All these people that are saying that 50,000 Chinese died there, I want to know how they got a hold of the military's battle damage assessment. Because if there had been a military action of that nature, there would have been a battle damage assessment. Oh, it would have been classified, no doubt. But I want to know how they got the number of 50,000. Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you where they pulled this out of their hat. We're pretty sure that Trudeau has a core of Chinese military in and around different areas of Canada. How big is a corps? Well, a U.S. Army Corps, depending upon what it is and what theater it's in and some other things, will vary between 35,000 and 50,000 troops. A Chinese Corps is very similar. 35, 40, 45,000, almost 50,000 is a Chinese Corps. So whoever had this story about the bunker buster going down was told about the Corps and doesn't understand how militaries operate or how they're deployed. And a whole corps, 50,000 troops, were in one place in a tunnel. Yeah, right. There's no way in hell a Chinese general is going to make that kind of mistake. No way in hell. That story is bullshit. I said I wasn't going to get mad. I'm not. I'm actually laughing to myself. So what do I think about the story of the bunker buster bomb? Nah. How does it tie in with a jet going down in Michigan? They say that the Chinese brought that down with some type of a laser weapon or whatever. Well, I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend to know. It could have been an accident. It could have been opposition forces. It could be enemies. I don't know. We have a lot of military movements in the United States right now that I told you do not coincide with the logistical support for Operation Warp Speed. I'm seeing things that don't make any sense. People are now sending me pictures from all over the country, mostly in the Northeast, of M1 Abrams tanks being unloaded from trailers, Bradley fighting vehicles, self-propelled 155 howitzers, rocket launchers, all sorts of things like that. You don't even need those for a civilian uprising. You might need it for a civil war if you have any hint that some states are going to activate their guard and their actual civilian militias to counter something if a civil war breaks out. Were they recon disciple of Messiah? No. You can do a recon if you want. The Northeast. Oh, what is an NE? Where is, I'm sorry, what are you talking about there? Where in the NE? Northeast, obviously Maine. I don't know exactly where the pictures were taken. I didn't get an exact geographical location. I just know it was in the Northeast. Probably Maine, Vermont, right along the border there with Canada, probably in northern New York. But I didn't get the exact location. I can go back and look. I didn't need it, and I'll tell you why that in just a minute. So in other words, and then we have the carrier group off the Pacific that's sitting there, and the carrier group off the Atlantic that's sitting there. And that apparently the U.S. Navy, this is in the mainstream media, the U.S. Navy has been confronting Chinese vessels in the Atlantic. I told you back in, I think it was 2012 or 13, it was right around the time of a lot of things were happening then. And there was a missile that was fired from a submarine, and LA, it was just off the coast of LA, and it went west out into the Pacific. And it was certainly not, from what we got information on, it was not a U.S. military exercise. And people thought it might be fireworks or whatever. No, it was a Chinese submarine. They have been able to penetrate our electronic defenses, our cyber defenses, and they were showing that. Okay? That's what that was. And now, what's happened? We've had a major cyber attack that shut down a lot of Google this morning, YouTube, those things. I'm surprised it's working now. Which probably goes along with, they're testing the shutdown, the blackout switches, or whatever they call it. Disengage this so that we can't communicate. By the way, make sure that you get yourself some walkie-talkies, okay? Some fairly decent ones, and I've told you before where you can get those. FRS or GMRS radios, they're not the best. They're on the 70 centimeter band, 440 megahertz, but they're pretty good. Sometimes you can give a long distance on them if you have good atmospheric conditions, not too many obstructions. You can go 30 miles or so, 40 sometimes. But they work within a couple of miles in urban areas. They usually work pretty well as long as you're not like in a basement or something like that. And sometimes they'll even work there. Just in case you lose communications, you'll have something, like your cell phone or where you'll still have some way of communicating with your loved ones. It might not be easy, but you'll have something. And you can look into more radio frequency communications, VHF, UHF, HF, and all that if you want. But you really need to have an alternate communications method. I noticed Matt Bracken was talking about that the other day. So we've had this cyber attack, and I put up on Twitter Roscoe Davis, a very good source. I really like Roscoe. He's an excellent attorney, and he has some other background. And he did a rather lengthy Twitter thread on this cyber attack. And of course, it wasn't Russia. The Dems want to blame Russia, of course, when it's obviously a Chinese attack. And of course, the people in the government are all for China. Despite what Trump says openly about how he's against China, he's sure done a hell of a lot of things to help him out. So now, I guess a thing called, let me see if I can get the name of this here, FireEye, which was hired to protect us from hacking. In other words, it's an anti-hacking company, actually got hacked several months ago, okay? And then the word came out, I guess, yesterday that the SolarWinds Orion software that almost all the government agencies use has been directed by Cybersecurity Command. They've been directed to remove that SolarWinds software. Where was DHS? Where was our great intelligence services that want to monitor your every movement, but they can't protect us from cybersecurity attacks from the Chinese? And that's who it was. Or our own intelligence services attacked us. It could be either way because they're all in the same team. Something's happened here. I hope I didn't lose you. So that's interesting that with the Chinese core, and they're not likely all in one place in Canada. The possibility they're in Mexico, I don't have any proof of that. We know they're in Canada. We're not sure they're in Mexico, but I suspect they are. Naval activities on both of our coasts. What we're seeing, again, I'll say, is more than Operation Warp Speed. Okay, something is really going down. And I think the end result is the takedown of the U.S. in its current republic form, which is faltering, and we're about ready to go into a new phase of what the nation we call the United States is going into something different. And I'm watching Trump very carefully. All of this maneuvering in the courts and all that is keeping you off of the warp speed, off the vaccine, off the cyber security, off the fact that they're going to have you cyber finances now. That it's all moving towards them having complete total control over you, and Trump is assisting it. Why? I think we're seeing the end of the United States on planet. Biden and his team, they can't be that good. They can't be that good, not without the cooperation of intelligence services and even President Trump himself. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. Does that mean that I think that Biden won't be president? I've said before, the AC doesn't have to be in the White House as the president. We've seen how Obama has influenced things, or at least he's been blamed for it. Probably so. He's not in the White House, and look at the power he's had. If Trump is the AC, he doesn't have to have the White House. And constitutionally, if all these remedies that he's trying to show that he's doing in the courts don't work, and all the other things that they have planned with the House and all the different machinations that they're doing, Mark Pantano was right. Biden will be in the White House. Constitutionally, that's how it'll go. But I also hasten to add, when has the government ever abided by the Constitution? When? Only when it benefits the powers that be, so that they can flag it in your face that they're following the Constitution, which is very rare. So Mark Pantano saying that the Constitution will prevail in this presidential election, that's how it should be. But that's not how it's going to work out. Hi, Jesse. Thank you for telling about the ham radio. Something else is in the works. They want to take down the Republic. And like I've said, Trump has been playing a very, very interesting drama. And if he's who I think he is, things are about ready to get really bad. Oh, it'll be like he's savior first. Look what happened. Trump did this and Trump did that, and he saved us from the big bad Biden. And they are bad. I mean, anybody that's watching this knows that. Right? And there was obviously election interference, but trying to do it in the 12th hour, what was the reason for that? Drama, to get you upset, that you lose hope, and everything's pushing you to hope that Trump will fix it. Not you people on the left. That's not who the devil's after. He's got you. They're after those who still have some principles left in their heart and a love for God. They got to get rid of that. And that's another purpose of the vaccine. Why isn't Trump taking the vaccine? Because he's God. That's why. He wants to be able to have those emotions and those things and those narcissistic feeds that the vaccine is going to kill in you. Your emotions are going to be put aside. Your spiritual connection to God, they're trying to cut off. Trump doesn't want that. He wants that. He wants that adrenaline rush. Plus, it probably interferes with your cognitive abilities. Don't take the vaccine. And if you've taken the test, do everything you can to clean up your system. You probably have even more nanotech in you at this point. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to cover. I did want to go back, I guess, and talk about the core strength of the Chinese in Russia. In Russia, it almost makes sense. In Canada, as it sits right now, if that's really happened, and obviously it has, Trudeau is pretty much. I mean, it's all come out. There should be really horrible actions being taken against Canada right now. The Canadian military should be in mutiny mode and basically cooperating with the United States military. You know what? I don't think that's happening. I've told you about the changes in the DoD. Nancy Morgan Hart put up, after the YouTube came back up this morning, put up a video about the executive order for the line of succession in the DoD, and that General Mark Milley, the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, is not on it. There is a war in the government, but I don't think the White Hats are winning, because Trump made sure that the White Hats wouldn't win. Because the end result is the takedown of the United States and the implementation of the satanic rule. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. Michael, Jonah of Nineveh, he's a traditional Catholic, a Sedevacantist, but he's traditional Catholic. I used to be Catholic, and he even offered to have me have a confession with, and I hope you don't mind me telling about this, Mike. I'm sure I'm telling about little things that have happened on the back end, but he invited me to have a confession, and I politely turned him down. I'm not into the Catholic thing anymore for a lot of reasons, just like I'm not into the Mormon thing anymore. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. He's a very intelligent, very faithful servant of God, and I like Michael a lot. We talk on the phone occasionally. He's put out a few things in the last couple of days, and he's asked people to repent, to wash their robes. That the real battle now, the real thing, the thing that's going to really count, is how your heart is, and how you're worshiping God despite all of the craziness going on around you. And I 100% agree. However, he did give out a little information. I'm waiting for him to come out with some more. I'm just going to identify who this person is I've been waiting for, because I think that's okay at this point, since he's putting this information out now on Twitter. He says there are going to be some really nasty things happen here very soon, probably between now and the 23rd, but certainly no later than mid-January. And he says that we can start looking for the two witnesses now. And I agree. So I think the bottom line is that in one way or another, Trump is going to retain power. I'm not saying he's the most intelligent in the world. I'm not saying that he's the most likely world ruler. I'm not saying that. He is one head of a seven-headed beast. One head of a seven-headed beast. But the one that Daniel and Revelation really homed in on because of his arrogance, his narcissism, his pretense to being God, and the desolation of abomination. And I've discussed that before. I'm not going to go into it here. Good morning, Nancy. How you doing? So that's just kind of my update for today. Those are the things that I'm looking at. There's definitely something happening on our northern border, and our coasts. and possibly on our southern border, but I'm not seeing much action down there. I'm not sure why. So I hope you're prepping, praying, and staying out of the way and getting yourself ready with your situational awareness on high. Again, I probably ought to apologize, at least to some extent, for the other night. I don't think I've been that angry or angry at people on here. Not all of you, of course, but some of the people that can't see that they're about ready to get hit by a freight train. They just don't see it. Or they're on here to try to keep people from realizing that they're about to get hit by a freight train. Nancy Morgan Hart put out another thing that was very good. About 40 million people are about ready to go homeless. I forget the exact number, but it's somewhere around there. By the way, Nancy, David Hodges put one out like that too. I don't know if you saw it or not. So those who are watching know it's coming. They're going to be evicted from their homes here in about another 3 weeks or so, right? We have this battle going on in conservative circles about, well, they should be able to stay in their homes. Or there should be the CDC saying that they can't get. Who the hell is the CDC? Should be able to stay in their homes, but then that hurts the landlords. How do they make their payments? So again, the stimulus has always gone to the big banks, and if those funds had actually been given to the people, none of these people would be going homeless right now. And I mean, like I said back in 2008, with that crazy stimulus that they gave back then, they could have paid off nearly everybody's mortgage in the country. I guess that fits too. But no, they chose to go for the corporations and the big banks, and they always will. Trump's a big businessman. He doesn't give a rat's ass about those people about ready to get thrown out of their homes. He's going to keep you on lockdown, plausible deniability, right? Because the governors are doing it, the mayors are doing it, but under his national emergency authorization, which he refuses to rescind. This guy is the perfect example of a narcissistic psychopath. He never takes responsibility for anything. Nothing. Nada. Fits the AC description to a T. I'm waiting for one more ticket punch. One more. So, Michael, if you're listening, Michael Jonah of Nineveh, if you're listening, I hope you give me a buzz today, okay? I know you're kind of staying on the back burner, kind of looking at things, fasting, praying. I know that. I've done a little of that myself. So let me know, okay, if you're listening. I don't want to bother you, but maybe if you pick this up, you'll know. Okay, that's all I got. I might come on tomorrow. I might not. I'm not sure. This is kind of a daily thing. I'm never sure where I'm going to be as far as when I'm looking at all this stuff. But I think basically what I've talked about this morning are the things a lot of people were worried about. Don't take the vaccine. Don't take the test. Matter of fact, if Trump wanted to stop all this nonsense, right, with them complaining that, the cases are rising, he could just have stopped pushing going and getting tested, right? That would have been easy. Saved his presidency without having to take the country down and turn us into a monarchy. Hint, hint. All right. Y'all take care. We'll talk again the other day. Just to recap, I don't believe there was a bunker buster bomb in Maine. I don't believe that they could have figured out that there were 50,000 Chinese troops killed without a damage assessment, battle damage assessment, which they would not have had access to. It's classified. Plus, the Chinese general's not going to put a corps of troops in a tunnel that can be taken out by a bunker buster bomb. Inconceivable to be that stupid. Oh, and then supposedly the Chinese general was executed. All this crazy nonsense. And these people that are telling us this are supposed to have been, I'm not going to mention the name. Steve Quayle mentioned it. I'm not going to. But this guy was an FBI informant that's putting this stuff out. He was never in the FBI. He was an FBI informant, which should tell you that you can't trust him. And people do. If you want to name him, you can. I ain't going to name it. No, Ben Nunn's not a shill. Oh, no, 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 no. No, Stephen is a good guy. He and his wife do good work. They're not shills. No, 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 no. But like so many of us, we sometimes get caught into listening to the people that we want to hear the things they say. Okay, and we all make that mistake. Even I have. Yeah. By the way, a good example was I was driving. I couldn't check, but I got, and most of you know about this. No, I don't think Trump's leaving. No, I don't think so. He may lose the election. He may, everything may go against him, but he's going to be in a power position one way or another if he's who I think he is. And like I said, he's punched 90% of the tickets. But anyway, so I'm driving along, and my buzzer goes off, and I look down. And I go, rats, So I pull over at a rest stop, and I'm looking at my phone, and a person had sent me a tweet from what appeared to be a tweet from President Trump saying, my blood is the vaccine. Well, I knew enough about the history of what he had said that he wanted to donate his plasma, okay, which was probably actually done. I honestly believe this. I'm not talking about at the time he came out of Walter Reed. He said it then. October 7th, I think, was the day he said, I will donate my plasma. But I think it's very possible that he had donated his plasma. If he's the AC, he wants to do what he says Jesus does, the way that the occultist Luciferians would look at it. Remember, the blood is a big thing with them. So, could he have used some of his blood? I don't know. He said he was willing to, his plasma. People say, well, they mean the antibodies. He said the plasma. Okay? So, I saw this and I thought, So I went ahead and tweeted it out, and I thought, well, that needs to get out because it kind of follows what I've been saying about this whole Antichrist thing, right? It kind of fits in, and then all the other things that occurred. Yeah, the December 10th EO. Thank you, Nancy. EO is important. You're absolutely right. Thanks for bringing that up. As a matter of fact, yeah, we'll let that go like that. So as I'm driving along, I'm trying to remember where I saw where he said it, and then I was able to remember, and I pulled over, and I brought up, I think it was a Business Insider article. I said it was Reuters, but it was a Business Insider article. And then I posted it with an explanation beneath that original tweet, showing that, okay, well, he probably didn't say that, although people that went back on the Twitter accounts, apparently they all stopped at October 6th. They couldn't get to October 5th, so who knows? I just remember the scuttlebutt. That was the main thing. So anyway, I put all of that up. So the point is, sometimes, when we're trying to get information out, we sometimes are biased towards information that coincides with our belief system. And we all make that mistake. It's important that we're willing to admit it. That's the important part. Okay? All right. That's all I've got for this morning. I'll just go ahead and go, let you guys get to your business. I like to let all of you watch David Knight in the morning. I almost said David Allen Coe. We're trying to play some music. That's one of the things we're going to do here in the next few days. But anyway, yeah, David Knight this morning. You guys really need to follow him closely. I really appreciate what people like Mark Passio does, Mark Pantano, Legal Man, of course, Nancy Morgan Hart. But for something as close to the mainstream news format and all around good reporting, you can't beat David Knight. Okay, so please go pay attention. He's the only guy at InfoWars I appreciate. That's another thing. What the hell was Alex Jones doing trying to upset Millie Weaver's thing, her get together where she was speaking there on Saturday at the Stop the Steal rally? What? He tried to play it down like, he was just going over there, but man, I don't know. I think Alex was drunk. He wasn't thinking straight. I'm not sure what was going on there. Yeah, thank you, Jesse. You're absolutely right. Jesse says, get your business, BP Earthwatch, get your business in order now. The Electoral College decision today is a critical turning point. Things will start moving fast. I agree, Jesse. And that's why I decided to come on this morning. because I'm seeing all these other things that are occurring. And gosh, we're all we have, ladies and gentlemen. We can't trust any of the politicians, not even people like Rand Paul. We can't. Thomas Massey, I like him, but none of those people are really doing anything. They're going along with the system. They're going along with the vax. We need each other. And now is the most important time. You need to start gathering up your friends that you can trust. If you haven't done it already, I'd suggest you do. Put your resources together. Give people tasks to perform that will help you to survive what's coming. You are the end game to the enemy. You are the enemy of the new world. You're really who they're after, not each other. Trump and Biden aren't after each other. I'm not saying they aren't enemies. Okay? I've said Trump wants to destroy his enemies. And he'll do it even outside the constitutional framework if he needs to, which is interesting why Milley is out of the chain of succession. Things are moving towards an entirely different form of government in what we call the United States. Balkanization is on the table, and we're hearing states talking about secession in reality. And I hear people, oh, ha, ha, they can't do that. The Civil War settled that. Ha, ha, ha. I wouldn't be so absolutely positive if I were you. Yeah, David Knight works for Alex Jones. And I'm sure that there are some very sharp arguments back and forth in the InfoWars newsroom when they're together. Okay. I don't have anything more. So we'll talk to you later, all right? Have a great day.